Thank you. And now, Deputy Franco Rogue.
Thank you, Concordia. I'm delighted to speak on this topic this evening. The current water charges system have failed. I believe that the reason that they have failed is that when taken into context of the overall taxation policy, they have failed the fairness test. As with many other policies of the previous Fine Gael and Labour government, when correcting public finances or sharing any financial gains, the then Fine Gael and Labour government made the decision to prioritise the well-off instead of the less well-off. All of their budgets were adjudicated on by the ESRI as being aggressive in nature, distinct from the fairness approach needed. The ESRI report on Budget 2015, which actually confirms Social Justice Ireland's analysis of that budget, stated that it was the fourth regressive budget in a row introduced by the Fine Gael Labour government, and a budget which widened the richer-poor gap. Indeed, the ESRI analysis of the previous year budget, Budget 2014, showed that it had the greatest impact, which was a reduction of 2% on low-income groups. For taxation measures to be accepted by the people, they must be fair, and the way in which Fine Gael and Labour went about the implementation of the water charges lacked fairness. A quick analysis of the income and expenditure figures relating to the water charges demonstrates what a total fiasco the Fine Gael Labour government made of the implementation of these charges. Let's consider last year's figure for 2015. Only 53% of the water bills were paid. The level of payments secured an annual revenue to the state of 144 million. However, 100 million was spent by the government on the water grant, which was promoted as some kind of water conservation incentive. However, this payment was not linked to any conservation measure. It was only to get the people to pay their water charges, and indeed was an indirect admission by the government that their approach to the water charges had failed. In 2015, 41 million is due in interest repayments over the year, and another 25 million was paid on administration costs. On this basis, taking the costs and the revenue into account, the state actually lost 22 million in total on its water charges regime in 2015. 46 million a year is being spent on wages to Irish Water, while is being spent on bonuses also. This is on top of the 172 million set-up costs. I'm not aware of any other tax introduced in recent memory which lost money to collect. We need to end the failed regime and move on from this issue. When all costs are factored in, namely the 550 million on water meters, the 172 million on the setting up of Irish Water, and the 46 million on running it, as in wages and bonuses, the government's creation of Irish Water will leave the Irish taxpayer 759 million worse off this year than if it had not been set up. This taken into context of all the local authorities that are already in place, with many specialised and dedicated staff dealing with water-related issues. Was there a need to create such a monster such as Irish Water? And indeed, the staff in local authorities are currently carrying out the works at the request of Irish Water. One of the reasons for setting up Irish Water relates to the ability to borrow money off the balance sheet. Private borrowing by Irish Water is now effectively impossible due to its growing reliance upon government payments. In any event, it would be more expensive for Irish Water to borrow on the markets than the government. Why would we set up this body, facilitate to borrow money at more expensive rates than they are available to the government, and then effectively ask the people to pay the increased cost of borrowing through their water charges? The water charges was introduced following the introduction of the universal social charge, the property tax, and the removal of many social protection benefits, including the benefits that were taken from the older people. Then, when Fine Gael and Labour made a decision to adjust the USC level at their last budget, it decided to reward the well-off disproportionately, which was another example of the regressiveness and the unfair approach to taxation policies. The government will introduce further amendments to this bill to ensure the suspension period is in tandem with the timeframe for the expert commission and the Oireachtas work on this issue. Our support for this bill is subject to that. No new bills will be liable until the end of March 2017, by which time the Dáil is due to have voted on the future of water charges, having considered the expert commission report and recommendations of this special Oireachtas committee. In effect, water charges are gone until the Dáil votes on this matter. In the European Parliament in September 2015, the MPs voted in favour of providing for the application of progressive charges that is proportional of the waters used. It is clear that the official position from Sinn Féin on this issue, when they go abroad, is quite different than it is at home. From 2007 to 2011, the Sinn Féin Regional Development Minister, Conor Murphy, had the opportunity to reverse water metering, but made no attempt to do so. Under his watch, a comprehensive water metering programme took place across domestic properties in Northern Ireland. Indeed, in the recent Brexit referendum, I watched with interest while Sinn Féin campaigning for Remain, at the same time an EU referendum which took place in this jurisdiction in recent memory that campaigned against the EU. So which is the real Sinn Féin? Again, we find their approach completely inconsistent. Ireland faces a range of issues, not simply the argument around water. Dáil is obliged to confront these matters on health, housing, future of education, special needs education, support of the old, crime, and all requires major political commitment. We need to resolve water and move on, and this bill gives us the opportunity to do this. This bill gives us a window of opportunity to win water charges, resolve Irish water and move on to the serious political issues, still enabling stable government at a time when the stable government is most needed. This bill reflects the first part of the Fianna Fáil agreement in facilitating the minority government and will see water charges immediately suspended as in the future, despite by the Dáil. Thank you.